The Pokeball, technological marvel that allows you to imprison any sentient being at the press of a button. In the time it takes for you to grab the TV remote off your nan to help her find where HDMI 1 is, you could already have her in the quick ball. Anyone over the age of 10 legally has the power to sentence any creature into the void, into pocket jail. And it turns out there's over 40 of these specimen containing orbs. I like all of the quirky Pokeball variations they've come up with, and I feel they've barely even tried, at least up until Legends Arceus. We're finally seeing Pokeball variations in a practical sense. So here's every Pokeball, with a few exceptions to the movies. I'm not doing the whole anime though, I'll be here forever. I know, you're all disappointed I have to ignore cult classics like Fishing Ball, but these are all the relevant Pokeballs. What was originally just a bug-catching ball, the sports ball eventually becomes legally sold by vendors. But I can't for the life of me imagine why you'd ever want to be using one. No modifier, just a base form Pokeball with a nice big S slapped on the top of it. It's as if Misty had enough of accidentally sending out Psyduck, so she had its initial just wrote on the top of it to remind herself that that one there, that's the Psyduck ball. The trouble is, she entrusted Psyduck himself to be given the task of writing on it. See, the anime, they had it down right. That right there, that's a believable sporting ball. Even the updated one without the S, it's not doing any favors. It just looks like a Pokeball that's currently in the Poke Center recovery machine glowing up for a second. This might have to be it, the worst Pokeball. You got no practicality, you got no fans, and looks like you don't even own the Pokemon. Looks like you got them on rental. Yeah, you better have that Nidoking back in the Dropbox when the weekend's done. Don't be getting a library fine. Yeah, you beat me. A fair one, but at least I didn't get all my Pokemon on tick from a dealer. Learn with Pokemon, Typing Adventure, a DS educational spin-off I had no idea existed, nor would I ever have any need for. I was reading Pokemon Gold clean as at age 4, okay? My brain is far too large and swollen for these feeble games. But this game has typing balls. It's just a blue Pokeball resembling a T. And for a little gimmick ball from an edutainment game, it looks a little cold, just a bit chilly. There, relatively speaking, it's actually not that bad. But as far as I know, has zero practical use at all. Oh god, we're on the Love Ball now. A contraption specifically made for pocket monsters on the prowl when your pet is dropping some game to the other gender. That sounds a bit innocent enough, but when you really think about it, Kurt has made an absolute trap of a Pokeball. What this means is, if Wobbuffet sets his eyes on one of them, hey, and fine looking lady Wobbuffet, she's going home with him. It's non-negotiable. 8 times multiplier. Oh, that's a tough escape, that is. You can have all the HP you want. That Pokeball might as well be an escape room. A Pokeball hand-tailored for the sub 6 foot tall specimens, the Nidokings out there. Yeah, that's why I prefer Pokemon that are funny. You know, got a bit of charisma behind them. They don't need to rely on all these 8 times multipliers to get a bit of that. So if you think too hard about it, it's a quite sickening little gizmo, isn't it? Look, dudes, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You can either get in the Love Ball or get in the van. It's far too situational for its use to be that good, but looking back, it's not very inclusive now, is it? My Wobbuffet might be gay. How dare the Love Ball try and dictate where his heart lies? Where's his 8 times multiplier for the boys? My boy might be bi. That's an 8 times multiplier on the whole species. Hopefully not Wyandots, but yeah. They need to catch up with the times. Go even further and sort us out a non-binary ball, a genderless multiplier for all my Voltorbs and my Starmies out there. Now I'm just imagining a trainer, he's discovering a thing or two about his Pokemon this way, using dozens of Love Balls, and what they're trying to catch is breaking out without any resistance each time. Like, Jesus, I've been full swiping, I've been paralyzed and putting them to sleep. An 8 times multiplier on the Love Balls and it's still breaking out every single time. There's something you're not telling us. Lotad. I don't know, there's no judgment here, it's only love, brother. You know that, but it's just, you got a low enough catch rate as it is, and I've yet to see a single roll of capture resistance. I just have to ask, just how gay are you? We got the Pokeball, only used in Pal Park back in Gen 4 for transferring Pokemon from the old games. A gimmick ball, but you know, hypothetically, ungodly, like a Master Ball, or at least the illusion of a Master Ball, because you already own them, re-catching them just for show. Just a bit of glamour muscle, this ball is. They say Grapplock, if you catch him after downing his iconic 4 pints in one go, his tentacles, they gain the grip strength of a Park Ball being used in Pal Park. Here we have a strange ball. It's just a region-locked Pokeball. It's nothing too freaky. You forgot to use the GameCube freeloader, and now your Totodile speaks Spanish. And quite frankly, he's had enough of the disrespect. You've been calling him Toto this whole time. He's sickened to find out this whole time you've been calling his entire species a bunch of style. Thought's essentially a placeholder graphic to indicate you've caught Pokemon from a ball that doesn't exist in a game you transferred it to. It's looking really clean. I'd be transferring my Pokemon from other games just to switch them out into the strange ball. We've got some illegal Pokeballs over here, the Cherish Ball, and I had no idea this ball existed. All I know is I downloaded someone's Omega Ruby save file, and they had about 999 of them. A ball which was never destined to be thrown. They come pre-built containing event Pokemon. It's actually a shame it's not on the market really, because it's definitely one of the more unique shaped Pokeballs around. A Legends Arceus exclusive, the Origin Ball. It's essentially just a Master Ball, except it doesn't get used typically on standard legendary Pokemon. It exclusively works on disgusting, biblically accurate legendary Pokemon. Understandable, it has a bit of aura surrounding it, created with the red chain. The same red chain that Cyrus managed to use to turn Dialga and Palkia into bottoms. Instantly catches your chosen Origin form legendary, and catches only that. So it's not the most versatile, but you can't argue against the results of a Pokeball that guarantees your livestock enclosure has the god of space-time floating about in it, eating 2 square meals a day out of the same troughs as the 50 Bidoofs you've captured. Another cog in the machine, one of the boys. What's that? An old boy? That's probably how Professor Oak would describe it, because it's the one he was using in the 5th movie, something like that. And again, I'll say that because Oak's only 50, he's decrepit old age, supposedly. He's not gonna let me get gaslit again from what that yapping he does at the start of Red and Blue, that he's, oh, I'm too old to be battling now, but in the meantime, he's the same age as what, The Rock? There's no chance he's lived long enough to be a kid back in the day, where if they were wanting to catch Pokemon, they were throwing Semtex at him. Old achy bone Sammy in his decrepit old body, all the way back 50 long years ago, when we used to catch Pokemon using the scraps of missile shells from when the German bombers were in the air, and we used to lure Pokemon out with the Plowman's Lunch. I prefer the Hisuian ones, but this is still an interesting interpretation, since it's not just like a pseudo steampunk Pokeball, it's like a legitimate prototype. This is before all that branding got involved. None of them fancy logos or iconic colors. This, my friends, is a gizmo twisting a little cap. I don't know if that means you have to throw the ball and then run over to the Pokemon to quickly twist the lid on by hand before he leaks out. I don't know, I've not watched this movie since I was like 6. They're sort of like them football-shaped Coke bottles they had promoting the World Cup. Bet if you kept a Grimer in one of these and you shook it up really hard, you could wipe out a small village. The Safari Ball, and that's exclusive to the Safari Zone. If you've ever been there, you'd assume it's the one Pokeball with a negative catch rate on it. I reckon it's all a big ploy by the Safari investors. These balls, they go by claw machine rules to keep you roped in. One in about every 50 Safari Balls actually tries to lock in. You see, that's how they keep you strung along, chasing that dragon, that rotund pink protein-filled dragon, paying for admission, 500 Pokedollars, 500 steps, charging you literally 1-to-1, about 5 minutes of walking. They get you in for an hour's worth of entry fees. That's about 6 grand. It's pretty much a chancy ball. Practically speaking, they would be the best balls to throw. It's nice to know Pokemon can be intelligent enough to read into the future, yet still low enough within the animal kingdom to be bamboozled at the concept of a ghillie suit. The classic, unreliable, the iconic design. What can you really say about the original Pokeball? You can't argue against the dollar. It is the backbone of creature entrapment, because no one's too much of a big man for the base form Pokeball. Although in reality, it wouldn't be the case. You'd absolutely get big leagued by people for using Pokeballs. Like wearing Umbro in school, you'd get grilled because you can't afford Nike. I see it as more of a flex in its own little way. Landing really tough catches in a normal Pokeball, you'd be hard pressed to find a Beldum who actually fell for one of these. I'd actually see that as a red flag if your Beldum's in a Pokeball. How have you managed to catch the single existing Beldum, either too stupid or too weak, that actually managed to fall for that? The Hisuian versions as well, they do a good job at making Pokeballs look as though they genuinely could have somehow existed hundreds of years ago, without seeming too forced in, you know, like the Google Pixel Arceus Hanger. That must have been a tough sell, being the person who invented the Pokeball hundreds of years ago. The witchcraft accusations you'd be getting, literally biblical. That's a pay-per-view event of an execution waiting to happen. The Premier Ball. It's pretty much if the Pokeball had its own shiny, and that's about it. Almost like the Pokeball equivalent of getting a McDonald's Happy Meal promo card. For every 10 Pokeballs you buy, you get one on the house. So in a sense, you could put that down to what, a market value of 2,000? Unless you are lucky enough to be down the road from the Pokeball boutique down in Kalos, where they're sold at a price disrespectful to the prestige the Premier Ball is trying to maintain, selling them off like they're just regular schmuck balls, like they're jabroni balls, tanking the value for the whole Pokemon industry. No one's gonna care about buying 10 Pokeballs at a time if you're over here selling them for nothing. Yeah, there's no catch modifier. We all know that. We know that. It's a useless Pokeball, but the public, they don't need to know that. I'd blindly fall for it and all. Premier Ball, Premier Trainer. You look like a high roller with your Pokemon team strapped into these orbs. A nest ball. What does that do? It works more effectively on Pokemon that are lower level. But you know what we call that around here? We call that a great ball in this household. Because the thing is, when you're at the point in the games where you're needing to catch low level Pokemon, you don't really have the privilege as a trainer to be gaining access to all the fancy Pokeballs. You might find a nice berry, but then you have to wait 24 in-game hours for Kurt to make it for you. By the time you're catching low levels to complete the Pokedex, you've probably already got like an entire bag of holdings worth of Quick and Ultra Balls on hand. So it's unnecessary as it maybe is, the nest ball is, however, it's looking fairly sleek. The Friendo Ball. See, this is one of Kurt's more necessary Pokemon variants to make. Even in real life, this technology would go a long way. And I don't mean like capturing animals. It just gets us one step closer to being able to domesticate tigers and bears without them immediately shredding us into whole grain rice. If this technology can satiate an XL bully's hunger for toddlers, and I could do all the wrestling moves I want on them, whichever ones I want, I could Batista bomb them, Tiger Drivers 98s, the whole lot of them, without risking my nose being torn off at a second's notice, then I'm all for it. Like if you're catching a Houndour, it's not really worth the risk of him not being a big fan of you. Only thing I'm finding here is that for something called a Friend Ball, I feel as though the design is not really on brand. If I wanted to be on immediate good terms with my Pokemon, I really don't think I'll be trapping them in the ball that looks as though the creation of Voltorb happened to a Spinarak. Setting friendship straight to 200 though, that's an overpowered ball. This is like the love ball for people who are extremely unlikable. Your dad uses friend balls and his Pokemon still release themselves. You only need 220 to friendship evolve. You catch a Railu in a friend ball, take him for one lap around Amity Square. You leave him with a Lucario. It's just a cheat code for friendship. The Heal Ball. It has a good amount of sauce lathered onto it, but it's unfortunately a very context-sensitive ball to be slinging about all willy-nilly. I can't imagine anyone playing Pokemon has ever gone, oh, I tell you what, it's lucky I picked up that Heal Ball. Otherwise, I'd have to be cracking into 3 or 4 of my 98 potions. Half the time you catch a Pokemon, it gets slung into the box, fully restored either way. So, look, what are we doing here? How rare is it on your Pokemon journey you have 0 healing items? Like, none. Don't lie to me. I know you've got an Orange Berry on you somewhere. It's nothing that an Ultra Ball and a few berries couldn't ail you for. By the time you even get a hold of Heal Balls, you've probably got a Kevin's Garage supply of Jawbreakers worth of Hyper Potions anyway. The only thing keeping the Heal Ball up here, all it has going for it, looking tasty. It's got a good look. But what a fine look it has going for it. Easily one of the more unique textures to a Pokeball on the market. If for whatever reason you want Magikarp to be an even easier catch, I've got just the bollocks for you. The Lure Ball, a nice 4 times multiplier on anything you encounter while fishing. This is an example of a ball that's far too intelligent for humans to be coming up with, even relative for Pokeballs. How does it have the awareness to know if a Pokemon has been fished or not? Like if you manage to chuck a hook onto Rayquaza, would he be locked in on that? If you mounted up your Super Rod just before you wake up Kyogre, is that a good bit of meta game in there? In practice though, Lure Balls, they get easily overshadowed. Because if you describe what it does, most people would assume you're talking about a netball. The Level Ball, potentially an 8 times catch rate modifier, depending on just how much your Pokemon mogs the other. It looks solid, but at the end of the day, it's just another ball that could easily be satiated by a great Ultra, and oh baby, especially a Quick Ball. Like many of the Johto balls, something tells me this isn't the kind of Pokeball you can just look up and pick off the Pokemon menu like it's McDonald's wrap of the day. It's more like rocking up and asking for a McLobster. You'd have to really go out of your way to get a hold of these. So for that alone, is it even worth you really using them? It seems intended for Pokedex completing when you've got a level 100 starter at the helm of your team. But really, the Quick Balls put this one off the shelf, you'd have to think. But I do like the exclusivity of it. I think there should be a lot of Pokeballs with rarity to them, especially if they have fun designs. And in lore, I think it makes a lot of sense for something like a Level Ball to exist, because there would absolutely be Pokeball variants sold at a scam price because they have a gimmick, but really, they're about as effective as any other choice, like buying different toothpaste denominations, Colgate Total, Max White, Sensitive, Cavity Preventing, Teeth Maxing. But they should be doing all of these things one would hope. Wait a scallop. A Pokeball that's better at capturing low-level Pokemon? I should hope so. They should all be doing that. Possibly the best mileage for your dollar. Arguably the pound-for-pound king Great Ball. You could go your whole Pokemon career just using Great Balls if you really wanted to. It's the first step you take in not looking like a jabroni. They're a solid like 6.5 out of 10 Pokeball. Kinda in the middle of not being as iconic as the base Pokeball, but also not being a big baller ball like the Ultra Ball. You know, when Kurt was inventing all these Pokeball variants back in Gen 2, he really went for some niche picks in the market. Maybe we could start prototypes on a, like an Ultra Ball. Maybe we could do a ball that bypasses the Ghost type's ability to not always be physically touched. Nah, that's handbags. No, what we're gonna do, how about we do the Ultra Ball thing you said, but for only like 4 Pokemon. The Moon Ball has such a very specific usage, but admittedly looks very baller. The Moonstone hasn't seen any action since Gen 5, and it might as well only exist in Kanto. In Gen 2, they even botched the coding to it anyway, so it has the catch rate of a standard Pokeball. So as of 2024, this works specifically on 6 Pokemon, but I can't imagine any universe where it wouldn't be getting a 4 times multiplier on an Ursaluna. The GS Ball. Gold, silver, greatest Smith's Ball. Design-wise, it's actually looking really good. Not the anime version, that's whatever, but the gold-silver artwork from Crystal, it makes it look as though it's built to store legendaries, or in this case, the fabled Onion Pixie. But I've never done this event, and from the looks of it, Celebi doesn't spawn from the ball. You don't catch it or anything with it. I guess the shine of a gold-silver ball, it just lures it in like it's drawn to a sheet of tinfoil. I get the GS Ball is to Celebi what a 250-pound jar of honey is to a Munchlax. So if you're talking purely, how good is it as a ball? Who knows? I don't know. It's a key item. It's not even a ball. It does technically get you a mythical, unless you're knocked it out. I don't think it comes back. An illegal Pokemon at that. So if you were to power scale the Pokeballs, you could argue it's Master Ball tier. But like I don't think the ball even opens. I reckon it's purely a decorative piece to hang up in your key item slot. It's like a fake apple from a fruit bowl in an IKEA showroom. A shiny hunter's best friend. They've made a Pokeball for repeat offenders, a repeat ball working against Pokemon who have long since been on the register. You must have to link your items to your Pokedex to make this one fair. Otherwise, people will be homebrewing the Pokedex to get the full odds. All this talk on repeating. Why not the Repent Ball with a catch modifier upwards of 255, depending on just how much they truly fear God. Bit of a quirky pick here, since you wouldn't say it's a Pokeball necessarily, but a Snag Ball somehow bypassing the Pokeball's honor system of not catching already owned Pokemon, or at the very least, bypassing the opposing trainer's ability to slap the Pokeball away whenever you try it. I don't know where this one stands in this video, since any Pokeball can become a Snag Ball. I just think it's mad that you can have a prosthetic arm that allows you to turn a friendly exhibition Pokemon battle into a 3rd degree mugging. On some level, even if it's just a regular Pokeball being converted into the Snag Ball, it holds power over literally any other Pokeball. Even the Master Ball is humbled by a moral compass when it comes to catching owned Pokemon. But this all brings me to the anime exclusives that are both essentially as if the Snag Ball were its own ball. You see, some balls here, they have the power to pacify Pokemon, while the Dark Ball just drags you straight into the evil side. A powerful sphere with the ability to strip you away of your Arceus given free will. Or you could just raw dog it and break out the spell through sheer willpower. I'd actually be convinced some Pokemon are big enough nutters that the Dark Ball would actually improve their behavior. I'm not convinced the Dark Ball has the power to make a drunken Crabrawler or Grappaloct even more of a menace than giving him a bottle of Jameson would. Then Mewtwo has his own set of balls to steal and clone everyone's Pokemon. You know, Mewtwo, he doesn't strike me as the kind of personality to care about the aesthetic of things. He's not a Bowser or an Eggman who feels the need to put his head on everything. Mewtwo doesn't strike me as the sort to care about branding, but he really went out of his way to get extra freaky with it. You can't tell me that Pokeball doesn't have a heartbeat. That thing's hiding a set of teeth like a goblin shark. I'll give him that. He's innovative. Very avant-garde of the genetic freak, isn't it? We've still yet to see a Pokeball get this freaky with it. Looks like it was made to capture relinquished. If you are deep into your Pokemon inflation, I'll tell you, this is the ball for you. A similar case to the Snag Ball, a Dynamax Ball can really be anything you throw at an abnormally swollen Pokemon. One no longer fit for the pocket. It's just a spectacle to look at. It's almost unfair to compare this one to most of the others from a visual standpoint. The others, if they're lucky, they might get a texture or a set of hazard lights installed on them. But when you Dynamax a ball, it's more like they get one of those animated screensavers. You're comparing a WebM to a JPEG here. Plus, they look so satisfying to throw, like slinging a yoga ball overhead straight at your friends in a swimming pool. My mind, it's so polluted from YouTube and influencer culture that the name Beast Ball is throwing me off it. You mean to tell me this is a Pokeball and not a Mr. Beast attempt after trying to take over the chocolate market and taking over the dodgy £1 German meatballs you'd get at 3 AM from the 24-hour offie market? I wrote that before all the stuff came out about it. I don't even know. I've not even looked into it. Maybe he will get involved in the meatball market. Maybe it's time. Plus, it looks as though a 5-year-old might have designed it. Not even in a bad way here though, to be fair. And I had no idea about the 0.1% catch modifier if you're not using it on Ultra Beasts. I feel like that's just itching the gambling node of my brain again. That's just asking for another flex attempt of having Ultra Beasts in non-Beast Ball containers. Jeez, how'd you manage to fit Guzzlord in a safari ball? Boswell was just asking for the life of luxury in a velvet cushioned ball for his achy bones after a good week of BPL X Arnold. They're one of the most unique looking Pokeballs out there. Pretty high ratings for that alone. You know, in all fairness to the fastball, being effective in all Pokemon with a base speed of at least 100, that covers a considerable enough amount of creatures. You can't even deny it shouldn't exist, really. See, I read that and immediately thought it'd be a great one to just lob at Entei or any of the other Roman legendaries when they randomly turn up. And it turns out that was likely its sole purpose, since it was meant to be for Pokemon that can run away. So surely made for Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. No other Johto Pokemon spring to mind with such cowardice. The Timer Ball, kind of like the Pokemon catching equivalent of charging up the Spirit Bomb. It's a good gimmick ball that you keep reserved for when Rayquaza's surrounded in a pool of broken Pokeballs, like the Pika Sky Pillars his Ford pickup, buried in a 5-inch layer of empty Budweisers, a 4 times multiplier after 10 turns, which for the average legendary encounter, I seem to feel as though you're slinging balls for at least 30 turns, and that doesn't even include the few turns you take damage in it, so it's hard to deny that kind of catch modifier in that situation. As a quick ball supremacist, I rarely find myself using the Timer Ball, although you can't deny it's one of the more clean looking ones around. The Dive and Net Balls. Very similar, but malleable. Set of bollocks here. Water being the most common type, you can't deny the versatility of a solid net ball. Plus, I do like the in-law reasoning of a Pokeball existing specifically to be used on the ocean floor, or even just underwater in any capacity. Like waterproof phones, how long do they last underwater? I think some of them can last half an hour. I'm not even sure I trust the Pokeball technology to be sweat-proof, let alone waterproof. I feel like even the slightest bit of faulty hardware on the Pokeball, and you're not getting them out. Still, even with an underwater Pokeball, I don't know how you'd manage to throw it with that much pressure on you. Reckon you'd need like a Remoraid on hand to fire it out of its mouth like a spud gun. But now that I mention it, how's that not been a thing? Surely somewhere in the anime Team Rocket, they've tried making some kind of spud gun to snipe Pokeballs at Pokemon. If they've somehow not, then what are they even doing? The Heavy Ball, classic ball of choice. Big fan I am of the Pokeballs that have all those little add-ons to their designs, these little stabilizers. It really makes them feel reinforced. And considering this thing looks specifically tailored to house a Steelix, it should at least give off the illusion that the ball welds together on impact. You can't afford to take the risk of a Heavy Ball malfunctioning and sparking open out of nowhere. Got no more Pokeball for Steelix now. The living room is Steelix's Pokeball now, but the Heavy Ball was also made for a few others unintentionally. In Crystal specifically, they have an on-site beef when it comes to catching Kadabra, Tauros, and Sunflora. Imagine the body dysmorphia you'd have being a Kadabra, a creature with the physical dimensions of Imalex, somehow getting trapped in a Heavy Ball. Imagine how gaslit that Kadabra's feeling. He's there looking malnourished, being spoken down to by a 40% body fat slacking like, well, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I've thought a few recently. You brought this on yourself, mate. Oh, when's the last time I saw you without a spoon in your hand? If Crystal weren't glitched, Kadabra would very easily escape. If you weigh less than 2 plates on the bench, you're likely escaping the Heavy Ball. So, yeah, stick to the twink balls, kid. Sun and Moon specifically has its own little botch. It always fails if a Pokemon has a catch rate lower than 20, because it subtracts 20, meaning the catch rate is 0, or even potentially into the negative numbers. I mean, who knows? Maybe somehow you end up inside the Heavy Ball. But as it should, it fails for anything that weighs less than 220 pounds. So if you're on the gym grind, you're questioning, should I cut? Should I bulk? Look, dude, if you're immune to that Heavy Ball modifier, you gotta keep on bulking, brother. The The Dream Ball. Yeah, he would have a little kidnapping device, wouldn't he? A 4 times multiplier on sleeping Pokemon. An elite ball, if that's how you personally go about catching Pokemon, slipping a little something extra in the water guns. Not really my style. I'm more of a thunder wave them till they begin to stutter their own cry kind of man myself. But what an untapped market in the Pokeball business. Finally, Gen 5 was asking the real questions, you know, where's our status inflicting Pokeballs? You're already trying to break their kneecaps to make their escape that much more of a little Rocky story. Stat inflictions and Pokemon catching, they go hand in hand. You might as well have a ball to lock them in. I reckon it'd even be a fun risk-reward gimmick for a hypothetical burn, poison, or confusion ball, since they could knock the other Pokemon out. Although it's a little bit niche, to the point where I'm convinced it was made exclusively for Mishana, it's definitely the useful kind of niche. One that's somehow quite ahead of its time, because to this day, we've not had any others like it. Now, the rest of the harmful elements, they need to start piping up. They gotta get their own orbs. You really can't make any argument otherwise. Practically speaking, the Master Ball, as the title suggests, is the master of all the balls. If you want to crunch the numbers, it's got the manpower of 255 base Pokeballs, or 127 and the top half of an Ultra Ball. The thing looks scientifically manufactured to keep Mewtwo stored and away from the general public. The only chance of failure lies in your good arm, or the catchy's ability to destroy the ball. In real life, you're not getting that Pokemon Go aim assist. As long as you're sneaky enough, then Rayquaza can't Hyper Beam it. Deoxys can't morph its hands into a giant ping pong racket and somehow end up catching you. If it lands clean, then you're sound. So a 100% success rate, most of the time, nearly. But that's a lot of responsibility you have in your hands. Owning a device that can absorb any specimen alive without fail. You're in possession of a portable solitary confinement orb. The heavy set balls from Legends Arceus once again showing off a physical use case. Heavyweight balls that give you a sneak bonus. It's a good compromise. Less throwing distance, but a more sturdy catch. Like surely the heavy ball, a device made to capture caravan-sized creatures, could not be thrown or even carried in the bag of a puny 10-year-old trainer. You'd be catching the champs just to have someone around strong enough to be your Pokeball throwing stand. No matter how you look at it, they're a banger set of balls. Unique aesthetic, probably enough girth behind them to break a Magneton up into 3 Magnemites again. The thing's a portable B button. Whatever poor Pokemon has to tank getting hit by one of these, it's going through devolution one way or another. It's the weight off a gigaton ball. I'd be worried. I swear, this ball, it better work. If it doesn't open up, I'm catching a GBH charge. Probably why the success rate is so high. Gives the Pokemon too much brain damage to even process the idea of kicking out. Well, fair enough, you caught a Garchomp. Not a lot of mileage to be had in a wheelchair though, is it? I'd leave it to the professionals crafting a Gigaton ball. Schematics unclear. Just knocked out 8 of Gengar's teeth. The Hisuian Zoroark I've captured is now a pure ghost. Legends Arceus given us even more Pokeballs with physical implications. See, I've got a decent enough throw on me sometimes, but that sometimes is what worries me if I had to be a Pokemon trainer, because some of these balls are expensive. I know Ultra Balls are more secure, but for how much I'm paying, they better come with a bit of aim assist and all. Too expensive to be missing. The Legends Arceus Feather Balls have answered me there. How else would you be chucking these at flying types? Even a normal Pokeball probably has a few solid kilograms on it to be chucking about so lightly. Hundreds of repetitions throwing Pokeballs is gonna add up. By the time you completed the Pokedex, your shoulders would be built like a pair of electrode. You'd get pulled over at airport security every time, thinking you're trying to smuggle 6 Voltorbs under your shirt, 1 for each deltoid. But the patterns on these feather balls as well. It's about time they started putting more detail into these Pokeball textures. High definition Pokeballs. You can't deny a potentially S-tier position here. Unique designs, very accessible. You can make them yourself. Insanely practical. A Pokeball with wings, they had it better back then than we do now. They knew enough do get aim assist Pokeballs, and what do we end up with? What do we get? Oh, we get the Incel Orb. The old reliable Ultra Ball, available everywhere, that serves tap water, fairly cost-effective, double catch modifier, and most of all, it makes you look like a turbo baller. You're in the big leagues if you got the Ultra Balls to spare, and somehow it looks even more cold in the Hisuian form. It's one thing Pokeballs could have ever been possible in those days, let alone they've already managed to make an Ultra variation, one that's more than twice as powerful already. An Ultra Hisuian Ball. I'm glad it exists as a player, but it kind of tells me their priorities might not be straight. I am bewildered. As much as you are, I'm so proud of us that we've managed to make an even stronger animal capturing device. But I would much prefer not to die from tuberculosis. Yes, it's very nice. But is there any way that we could somehow use this specimen absorbing orb to instead absorb Disease? Yes, yeah. That's a very fine Piplup you've caught. Okay, fair enough. You got me there. But yeah, my children still have cholera, so... An old fan favorite, the Dusk Ball. One of the best looking, can be used for almost anything if you're playing past bedtime. Scales based on your inner emo. If you tried to catch Shadow the Hedgehog in one of these, it'd be as if the Master Ball had its own Ultra Ball. Even if the catch modifier were terrible, I'd still be using them from looks alone. Hell, I'd use them in the daytime. You see me on holiday on the beach in my Tony Soprano shirt, still slinging Dusk Balls. I don't even want the multiplier. Seeing the lowest catch odds just triggers the same node in my brain as seeing the 0 on the roulette table. Nah, trust me, I've got a good feeling about this one. Groudon's going in the dive ball. A ball exclusive to Pokemon Unite, which I've actually still not played, but I swear this ball, it was tailor-made for me. The 1A and 1B of my colors of choice. I tell you from looks alone, this ball could exclusively only work on Pokemon who are registered nonces, and it'd still be the best looking Pokeball out there. Imagine this build with the practicality of a quick, or even just an Ultra Ball. I'd even go through the hassle of building up my credit rating with the BP currency just to get a hold of these. This is the one, the Hustler's Pokeball. Don't have the time to be getting strung along, watching the ball shake 3 times just to break out. Don't have time for any of that false hope. Don't even have time to be battling. One singular JRPG turn of play is the most you're getting from me. The moment I lock eyes with a furry little friend though, he's getting pelted with the Quick Ball. 5 times catch modifier, instant catch almost every time. This whole time, I've thought the Quick Ball catch modifier, it kind of scaled downwards like a reverse timer ball. But no, it just drops straight to Pokeball tier the moment you even hesitate to throw it. After abusing that infinite Watt glitch for Sword and Shield when it came out, stocking up fully on the Quick Balls, I've yet to see a little critter Roman that have managed to resist the taste of a Quick Ball. Unless you're going for ball aesthetics to match the Pokemon you're catching, or they're inaccessible to you in bulk numbers, your Pokemart's not selling them, or they're only available for purchase with like BP currency, there's no reason for you to ever not be using these. Arguably the biggest baller entrapment device to be slinging about, the Luxury Ball. To me, this is more of a flex than having a full team coming out of Master Balls. Like the AI professors, they had 0 struggle catching their team. But this one has the strength of a base form Pokeball, a 1 times modifier with a market value upwards of 50k if you're going to the wrong place. Imagine having something as impossible to catch as Beldum in a Luxury Ball. I wouldn't be able to tell if you were someone who's really good with money or absolutely terrible. Like, okay, I'm impressed that you're capable of making that kind of investment, but very disappointed you'd be willing to commit to it. But the gimmick here is that Pokemon's friendship increases at double the rate. Only a 1 catch modifier, but that's all you need. Any Pokemon who knows what they're on about wouldn't not want to be kept in here. You'd get no resistance from me. I bet you'd be cozy inside a Luxury Ball, feeling like you're inside an era. Look, there's no 2 ways about it. As a creature, you've still been imprisoned, but at least you get to sell with the PlayStation and Sky TV. At least you're in business class for your journey as a slave. Clearly, that's why it doubles the friendship rate. You get to live in the room Drake and Josh had. Your Pokemon's like, all right, I was a bit upset with you for capturing me at first, but I've got to say, you've hooked me up. You've hooked me up. You know, I used to hear rumors about Pokeballs, how they barely have tap water, but for here, you got a beanbag chair, you got aircon, you've even got the dodgy box with all the channels and the pay-per-views. I'm cozy. Battle me whenever you want. Yeah.